Hi everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Today we have a webinar. This is the third webinar series organized by a sustainability unit of Malaysia Productivity Corporation. Sustainability unit is established this year in 2020 in January. So among the responsibility of the unit is to take care of the research, the knowledge sharing, and also benchmarking on circular economy. So it also would like, this unit also seek to have collaboration and understanding so that we can have exposure on the use of sustainable resources. So this is very important. In the past, we may not have a sustainability unit in Malaysia Productivity Corporation, but due to the urgent need of to use the resources sustainably, so this unit has been established. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start now. Let me introduce the speaker. Yeah, for today, 6th of May 2020. The title of the webinar is Adaptation of Circular Economy Concepts in Water Industry. We are very lucky. We have Madam Punita Naidu. So a little bit of background of Madam Punita. She is an independent consultant of STI Consulting. Prior to joining STI, she was the director of National Water Services Commission for 10 years. And of course, as a consultant, she has a lot of engagement with water management agency globally. So in terms of education background, Punita has a degree in engineering, bachelor degree in engineering, and 2 masters of science. I believe she was doing the research and also MBA. So with the experience of Madam Punita, I believe that we would have a good discussion today. And without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Madam Punita to start her presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ida. That is a very kind introduction of myself. I like that. And I would like to thank MPC for inviting me to have a conversation on adaptation of circular economic concept in water industry. Malaysia is one of the countries that is considered advanced and progressive when it comes to water and sanitation sector in a linear fashion. That means we are known to have a very wide outreach of water services, very good sanitation services. Now what is the next thing that we need to do? So this is something that we need to think about. And I do hope that this webinar session is actually to intend to mildly provoke thoughts on the concept of a circular economy in water industry. I do also hope that it will create some conversation among policymakers, regulators, implementing agencies, and industry players. And if possible, also to argue my case why it is essential to build in circular economic concept in and along the water chain and peripherals of the water chain. So in this particular session, I do hope that we will have ample of time to get ideas, to get questions, and also to challenge what are the things that we are doing now and what could be done better, because I'm very sure some of the participants have some experience locally or even abroad. Next, Dr. Ida. This is the content of the webinar. I will not be so guided in a very, like in a lecture format, but basically what I would like to cover here is the designing of circular economic concept. And then one thing that we all need to know is this particular concept, it cannot really be traced to a specific date or person. From what I searched, my research shows that it started sometime in 1970s in a context of modern economy by a group of thought leaders, businesses, and academicians. And it gained momentum since then. In terms of a modern economy and also industrial processes. That's when it actually this term is coined. But in reality, in small ways, we had seen our parents or our grandparents using this particular concept effectively, just that they never called it circular economy. But what they say is don't waste. Use it to the maximum. Don't waste the money. Don't waste God-given gift. These are the words that they used to use. I remember when I'm young, my grandmother collect rainwater for household use, and the water that she used to wash the plates and all those things, she used to water the garden. The water that she used to cook food or wash the rice, she feed the cows. Yeah, I was a kampung girl, so I lived that environment. So this is what has been done. In really true sense, to an individual basic, that is what circular economic concept is all about. So in the next slide, we will look into the technical and academic fashion of it. What does it circular economy entails? So if you look at the next slide, there are many descriptions. Dr. Next slide, please. There are many descriptions and definitions that goes around what is circular economy. Now, this is not a legal binding term that requires it must be defined in a certain specific way. But three of the definitions that really caught my eyes is the one that you can see on the screen right now. An economic system aimed at eliminating waste and continual use of resources. It's a very simple way of explaining what is circular economy. It's based on the principles of designing out the waste and pollution, keeping the products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. So you are really going back to the basics. And finally, aiming to redefine growth, focusing on positive society-wide benefits. So it's not just, in a later part of the slides, we will actually discuss further, I will actually discuss further, but actually a lot of time when we talked about circular economy or we have conversations about sustainability or green tech, actually all these things are the same thing. There's no difference. For example, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a friend. So I'm still the same person. That is what it is all about. Circular economy, sustainability, or green tech. All these three components are the same thing. It's just that how we looked at it. When it comes to context of circular economy, we are looking into the entirety of a sector, like a national economic context or global economic context or an industry context, not in terms of an organization or a specific process. So this is what the definition of the building blocks of circular economy is. We can start from as simple as, for example, I want to relate back dengan water sector. As simple as the treatment process itself, whether it's being energy efficient, whether it's being water efficient, whether it's producing less environmental impact, that is on the process of a treatment. Then building it up for the entire organization, how now the entire organization is behaving. Are they actually using too much of electricity? The way the lighting system in the office is being laid out, whether it's a efficient lighting system, whether they're using too much of energy in that, air conditioning, whether the building is designed to use a lot of air conditioning units or less. So you go into organization context. Next, you go into industry context. When you go to industry context, at one point of time, we are the user, another point of time, we are the provider. So when we are user, what we can actually determine in order for the provider build in circular economic context in their processes. So these are the various building blocks. We can never reach that national level circular economic context today or even in next 5 years. But building in building blocks from the processes into the organization and institution, and then you build up kepada dia punya sector, is something that is doable. And looking beyond the current linear approach, the one thing that regularly being taught in circular economic context is one, the current business models, which are very linear. We make something out of what we take, and then we dispose it, then we repeat the cycle. So this is a linear model. This model has worked well for a very long time, and it's so the entire infrastructure, when I talk about infrastructure, I'm not talking about the building. I'm talking about the business model, the banking institutions, the government policies, the laws. Everything has been designed to allow linear models to happen because that's how we have lived our life. But when it comes to circular economic model or concept, we are redefining the entire process of managing things. We want first and foremost, we want to take as little as possible from the environment. So not having a lot of burden on the environment, and whatever that we want to use that resources, we want to ensure it is designed, it has the least waste. That means either it will last long. For example, a product that can, instead of lasting for 5 years, it can last for 10, 15 years. Or the product, once it being disposed, it can be reused for something else. That means the design thoughts going into that making of that product or that services doesn't introduce element that is harmful to the environment or the human body or any part of the ecology. It doesn't have toxicities. Things like that has been done. In fact, if you go and search, there have been industry that has been using dye in textile industry that doesn't have toxicity content. So why? Because they want to reuse back that water, and they want to make sure the cloth can be reused for something safer. So what are the thoughts that we keep built in on that? The third thing is, what is that? When it returned back, that means it's leaving you and going elsewhere. There is another purpose for it. It doesn't straightaway go to landfill or goes to the river and being dumped there. So they are the multiple purpose. So that is what the entire circular economy idea should look like. It's not same for every industry. Of course, if we go deeper, we will find like in circular economic context, when come to water, it's not really a circle, but it's a butterfly concept. That doesn't matter. Itu sebenarnya kita tinggalkan kepada yang bijak pandai macam Dr. Ida lah, all the academicians, people who looking into the theoretical part of it and how to make it applicable. Tapi for me, I'm talking from practitioner perspective. So from practitioner perspective, is this doable? Yes. But later part of this conversation, we'll talk about what are potential challenges that we have. Actually, we have some challenges, and whether this is, are we ready for it? So that is another part yang kita akan look at. Jadi, the key component, as I just want to recap this particular slide, three main components is designing out waste and pollution, keeping the product and material as long as possible. I remember when I'm young, if I get a dress, my sister will, after I finish using it, my sister will use it. So I'm glad I'm the bigger sister. And then after my younger sister finish using it, and then it become a flora. So it's always, keep as long as possible, stretch it out and regenerate natural systems. Produk dulu, a lot of it, kalau masuk balik kepada environment, dia boleh reput, literally reput and become one of the part of the environment. But current products are not really, it actually goes and stays there for thousands of years. You know, we have issues with microplastics, and microplastics not only come from bag plastic, even some of our clothes have all these components. Next slide, Dr. Ida. In the next slide, what you can see is, this must be very familiar for a lot of participants of this webinar. These are Sustainable Development Goals. Ada 17. Dalam 17 Sustainable Development Goals, there are two goals that is directly using the word water. That is goal number 6 and goal number 14. Specifically saying that something quote unquote influence or need for that water. While goal number 12 is actually quote unquote circular economy. Okay, it's worded different way. It's a responsible consumption and production. But if you really go into the descriptive of that SDG number 12, it's actually talking about circular economy. And if you go into 2019 punya stats of Sustainable Development Goal, where does Malaysia stand in number 12 is really, really at the low part of it. Now, there's not much of activity. I mean, there's not much of activity or initiative yang tangible yang can be reported. That's what I believe. And one thing, if you look at all the other Sustainable Development Goal presented here, daripada komponen nombor 1 sampai 17, exclude 6 dengan 14. Every single component in the Sustainable Development Goals, in order for us to achieve it properly to a level that we can be proud of, either affected by water or will impact water. Every single component. You can, any of the participant can ask me, how is it possible to relate dengan one item or the other? Katakan kita talk about quality of education. How does water relate to quality of education? do you know globally, 1/3 of the schools do not have either lack of water or safe water, and that affects 570 million children globally. And because of that, they cannot go to school. When they can't go to school, or when they go to school and they cannot really enjoy that education system, that means the quality of education system is lacking. So this is something yang kita kena be very mindful. Sebab actually in Malaysia, we are blessed with abundance of water. We are really blessed that we have an opportunity to get upset when we open our taps, the water is not flowing. We have that opportunity. In a lot of country, it's not an opportunity to get upset. That is their reality. Day to day wake up, buka tap tak semestinya ada. A lot of country actually until today do not have 24 hours water supply like how Malaysia has. So this is yang saya sort of like a reality check. Never look at water and sanitation component as a component yang stand alone. Dia punya impact and influence on every single item yang deemed as a goal to achieve sustainable development is either affected or impacted by water. And what if I want to give you a quick facts, in the next slide you can see a couple of quick water facts yang kita boleh nampak dekat this is actually taken from a white paper that published by Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So what you can see here is, at global perspective, 70% of fresh water is actually used by agricultural sector. And by 2050, there is a need to increase food production by 50%. So you can see where does most of the water will be going. And remember, when they talk about 70% of fresh water, that is barely 0.5% of water in the world. But most of the water is actually dalam bentuk yang tidak boleh digunakan. Either it's trapped underground or it's actually seawater, salt water and all those things. Jadi only barely 0.5% can be used. In that, 70% is actually for agriculture sector. By 2050, 60% of the, there is the need to increase food production by 60%. And most of the cities will have an increase in global demand by 55%. And why this is extremely essential in Malaysia is because 70% of Malaysian population is living in urban areas. So it's really a massive thing for Malaysia that Malaysia need to be prepared. And in manufacturing sector, there's an expectation of 400% increase in the demand. Similarly, when it comes to energy sector, for the production of electricity, not so much 50%, but that will have an impact. And energy costs to operate water and wastewater facilities range between 5 to 30%. In Malaysia, sometimes some of the facilities can go even as high as 35 to 40%. And in Europe, it is they said that the circular economy ecosystem actually can bring in economic benefit up to 1.8 trillion. And globally, the loss to the ecosystem due to not applying circular economic concept to its actual meaning, the fundamental meaning of it, can have a loss of 20 trillion. So we are not talking about small numbers here. We are really talking about something yang sangat-sangat significant. And of course, what I'm showing here is this is global figures. But right now we are living in a world that is extremely globalized, right? We can really see that when it comes to coronavirus. It's not country specific or geographical specific or race specific, across the board. I think that's how we are living our current lifestyle. The way our economic system functions across the board, global. And specifically when it comes to water, global figure says 95% of the water that is used actually get thrown away. Never sees its secondary value. Tapi saya berani nak cakap di Malaysia, I think 99% is get thrown away. I berani nak cakap lah. Kalau saya salah, saya harap some of the participants who probably here who have a better number actually can share. But I'm pretty confident to say that. And it is estimated by 2040 most parts of the world will not have enough water. 40% of the world will be water stressed. And kalau kita tengok slide yang currently being shown on next slide, please, Dr. Linda. Kalau kita tengok this particular slide, ini homegrown. This data is taken from National Integrated Water Management punya document produced by JPS. So if you really look at that, cuba kalau kita tengok a couple of states there, by 2010 it's already showing being water stress. First and foremost, kita tengok the demand sector. Actually air dia bukan ada single user. Of course we as human tend to think we are the only one using it, but actually the water, if you tengok the paddy fields, putting aside, I do not want to go specific on paddy field, but agriculture sector actually has very high water consumption. They need a lot of water. And second thing is, of course, potable water demand, that is for domestic commercial industry sector and the rest of it. So there are actually a lot of people competing for water. Water do not have one single purpose or one single use. Yang kalau kita tengok dekat sini, that particular sector ni, satu sector kita tak tengok, ecosystem. The river itself is actually alive. The river is not a dead, it's not like a handphone or something that is dead. River ni sebenarnya benda hidup. So the ecosystem itself need to have certain amount of water in certain quantity and quality for the ecosystem to survive. So beside the abstraction for various purposes yang kita boleh nampak. On top of that, based on the total demand from all these sectors, some of the states are anticipated even as early as 2010, that is 10 years ago, they will be already facing deficits. So kalau tak face deficit, and then kita bersyukur je lah. Now we thank to God. Kalau tak ada deficit lagi lah. Tapi the fact is, the scientists, the research shows that kita akan mula face deficit. And I think some of the states memang dah mula face deficits. Now the question is how we actually address the deficits. Are we going to create more dams? Are we going to create more abstraction points? Are we going to dig the ground to get groundwater? So what are we going to do about it? So this is where yang some of the component yang kita kena tengok. Dan kalau really, if I go dive deeper, when I was looking at Malaysian Water Industry Guide published by Malaysian Water Association, prepared by SPAN, Suruhanjaya Perkhidmatan Air Negara, the domestic per capita consumption, why saya nak sebut specifically on potable water supply, sebab kalau kita tengok based on water sector, potable water supply sector actually takes a lot of water consumption, and one trend that is going up, right? Compared to paddy pun nampak macam turun bawah. Maybe something is happening, I'm not sure. Tapi kalau kita tengok portable domestic punya graph tu, dia memang climbing. So don't know when dia akan stop atau when dia akan plateau. Dan kalau saya tengok data yang dibawa dalam MWIG, Malaysian Water Industry Guideline, dia kata the capita consumption, some of the state go as high as 270 liters per person per day. That is a lot of water. And if I'm not mistaken, Singapore is 190 or 180. So that is our neighbor. So cuaca kita sama. So kita tak ada we don't have excuse to say, oh, it's a cold country, so they don't have to bathe so often, or whatever stories that we want to come up with. We are living in a similar environment, a similar climate, but the consumption differs so much. And second thing is non-revenue water. A lot of water go wasted. Right? That's another part of it yang bila kita kena tengok when it comes to circular economy context. NRW, some of the state went as high as 60%. Average nationwide is 34%, tapi when it comes to NRW context, for some state went as high as 60%. I didn't put some of the slides in, some of the component in these particular slides, but I can actually verbally share. Why all these things essential is when water is actually getting taken out from the nature to be used. That means now we are moving away from nature-made model to human-made model. Okay, the moment it get extracted out, water is not coming in a quality of looking like crystal clear Avian bottled water. They can come in a very in its natural context. It need to be cleaned up. When cleaning being done, there's energy required for it. There is chemical required. In Malaysia, masih lagi extensively use of chemicals and also power. Bila kita guna energy, how does the energy being generated? Is it coal, hydro? How? Is it clean energy? That's one context yang kita kena fikir. Second context is chemicals. These chemicals that is being produced, how or used. What is the, after dia rawat, what happens to this chemical? Can it be reused? Can these chemicals be harvested and be reused? Atau dia just one single use, dia kena dump? Atau one single use in water sector can be handed over to another sector. Jadi dia macam apa, a long food chain lah, right? So what is being done? So right now nothing is being done. Okay, those things ini selepas guna buang. So this is where kita kena, dan on top of that, lepas kita guna rawat so much, like every 100 liters of air dirawat, kalau 60%, kita jangan cakap 60% lah, 60% only one state. Kita kata 40% lah. 40 liters kita buang. Lepas kita take the energy of pumping it so many kilometers, we pump it out from the river. There's cost of pumping, there's a cost of treatment, there's cost of chemicals. And then when we're sending it out, we lose 40 liters. It's not, the problem is when we only measure everything in comparison to dollar and cents. But bila kita monetize all this impact to the environment, that means kita start putting in money to the loss of that energy, to the loss of that chemical not being reused and returned back to the environment, having impact on the environment. Kalau kita boleh monetize this component, then we can see the true value. What are the loss? Because currently the loss is, oh, the air 100 liters katakan RM10, kalau 40 liters hilang, oh, it's about RM4 hilang. So okay, not that bad. This is how it's being seen, but is it really RM4? So this is something that need to be looked at. And so the thought of, in the next slide, Dr. Ida, what we can see is there was a lot of debate that we can see. They said that the image of water cycle itself, it gives us a fine, a good spirit, di mana air diambil and then return back kepada river in one way or the other. Either man-made, kalau man-made dia akan masuk water treatment plant, masuk all these premises, and then masuk sewage treatment plant, lepas masuk balik river. It seems beautiful, but we should know that is not really the kind of cycle that we have. In a 2D diagram presentation, yes, that's how it looks like. But in reality, it's very different. So that's what you can see in the next slide. In the next slide, what happened?
Madam Punita, maybe I need to ask one question here. You see that the blue color is potable water demand. So can you explain a little bit what does it mean by potable water demand?
Potable water demand means water that, actually potable water demand is water that is taken up by water operators and it is treated to the point of it can be consumed by humans.
Oh, so is that something that the mineral water that we purchase?
No, it's not mineral water, it's our tap water.
I see. Oh, okay, thank you.
Water is pretty safe to drink. It's just that we do not know the quality of the pipelines or even our own housing or apartment plumbing lines. So of course we don't, for me, I don't really drink directly from the tap, but the quality of water right now in Malaysia, most of the time, complies to WHO drinking water quality standard at the water treatment plant point. So actually potable water is a definition, in this particular context, talking about water that is extracted and being used or treated by water treatment plants to that quality. But it's not solely used for drinking. In one of the slides later I can share, it's not just for drinking, but they also use it for industrial processes because that is the supply chain or distribution chain right now. That's how it works. Okay, kalau kita tengok, actually, this is the new water cycle diagram that has been produced by University of Birmingham because they said that the original water cycle diagram tend to give us a very euphoric feeling. So they feel what they say is they don't feel true. And actually, when I read through this article, it makes sense to me because it's sort of like very beautiful, like everything come to a full circle, like life and death kind of very beautiful circle like that. But in reality, that's not what happening because there is a human intervention to nature. And our intervention is ke lubang cacing situation, to every single component yang kita boleh cover, kita we have covered, we have explored, we have created, we have urbanized, and we have expanded the urbanization. We have come up, we have become dependent on things that normally we're not, that we can actually live without, not like iPhones and whatever not. Jadi sebenarnya, this particular diagram shows that what are the human interaction in terms of climate, in terms of water use, and land cover. And land is an essential component. I'm not going to go detail on this. Sebenarnya, we have extremely intelligent industry experts and agencies in the country that probably can read this diagram in very beautifully. You know, we have agencies like JPS, Jabatan Pengarah dan Saliran. We have NAHRIM, Academy Science Malaysia. There are plenty of people who are doing a lot of work. So what I'm sharing here is the way it is being presented so that kita tak tertipu. Indah khabar dari rupa situation kalau kita gunakan water cycle yang lama. So that's why I'm using this particular water cycle image. And why land cover also essential? Because the way water is being stored. Okay, one thing I should have said in the beginning of this conversation is, we always take it water sebagai infinite source. Kita anggap air tak boleh habis. This is how we sort of like live our life. We believe water is forever there. Tapi actually tak. Water is a finite source. So the question is how long? And if it's very long, what kind of quality it's going to be, right? So when we're talking about urbanization context, a lot of time bila air through precipitation, evaporation, dia jadi apa? Clouds. From clouds it comes down as a rain. It gets stored in water catchment areas. And what water catchment areas is not something yang like modern technology design. Water catchment area literally means huge greenery areas, forests and all those things. Kawasan besar yang ada banyak pokok yang can actually capture this water and then retain it in the ground and slowly release it kepada environment. So that's what water catchment areas are all about. But as we expand out our urbanization, people are moving in, living in more concentrated area, kita expanding out. A lot of water yang captured from water catchment area end up dekat urbanized area. We are living in concrete jungle. Dia tak ada retaining capacity as is. Of course, dia ada component macam now new things are coming up, the beautiful things are coming up, smart cities and all those things. Tapi based on current context, dia tak ada retaining capacity. Everything like that, like flash flood, run through our roads, run through our drains, goes into the river, flash floods and leaves out. The moment it leaves out, go to the sea, it becomes unusable. So it's very fast. Like before, it takes days for the water to retain and flow and then to replenish us. This is what happened. Actually, this is a very detailed slide, very theoretical of it. Kalau water industry players, they will totally understand this. But I want to share this so that we can start to get focused more on one part of water. Sebab kita ada banyak komponen of air, tapi let us share on one part of the water. And the other parts of it, when it comes to impacts on agriculture and all those things, there are plenty of things can be done. For example, when it comes to, we saw earlier, the agricultural component, di mana dia gunakan a lot of air. So the current approach is there's a lot of noise and dissatisfaction, things that must be done, or even misunderstanding. Sebenarnya, there should be strategic approach by the policymakers and decision makers to design policies to help agricultural or farmers or agricultural producers into techniques that use less water. The current approach of, for example, I know one of the states, they go on the policy of no water supply interruption at any point. So what they do is, bila mereka go on that approach, that doesn't mean it's everything fine and dandy. That means someone else punya supply has been terminated. So like in this particular place, the water supply kepada agriculture punya sector was stopped. So I'm not going into advocating one or the other, because in different contexts, different decision applies. But what I'm saying is, we have to remember agriculture actually fruit producers, right? They're either fruit producers or non-crop. If you notice, the non-food crop is very minimal use of water, but food crops actually use a lot of water. So, and we need that. Jadi kalau kita perlu, how we want to balance this? So this is where the component of helping agricultural sector, creating practices and farming methods that probably can rely on design patterns, can rely on, can design the patterns based on can design their practices based on weather patterns or the flow hydraulics or the quantity and quality of it, depending on the time of the year. So I think benda-benda tu kena buat. So one key component yang kita kena tengok, because of that complexity, saya tak cakap sekarang complexity of the politics, complexity of the federal constitution dengan apa ni, not federal constitution, federal powers dengan state powers. We are not even getting to that. But in Malaysia, resource is under state, services is under federal, when it comes to water. So putting aside all that complexities that involve, the politics that's involved, purely on science aspect of it, when you look at these complexity that's happening, right? Number one, there must be a mechanism to collect data on weather patterns, flow hydraulics, quantity, and quality. Like it, and I must say that is being done. Benda-benda tu memang dah dibuat. So that will determine using of the resources in a proper way, redesigning the necessary component in the cycle, and ranging the agricultural practices, macam saya kata, not just agriculture, also industrial practices. How all these things can be changed. Jadi benda-benda ni kita boleh buat. And I think I'll just speed through, so give some time for the question and answer. So if you go to the next slide. So what you can see in this particular slide is a very familiar slide kepada wastewater practitioners actually. Water practitioners, clean water practitioners mungkin tak perasan. For wastewater practitioners, this is our consider something that we are very familiar. If you see on the left-hand side of the slide, that is what's happening currently. That means water is taken up somewhere, getting treated, getting supplied everywhere, getting disposed in one point of time and goes out. Okay, that's a linear model. So kita nak close the loop. As much as possible, kita nak close the loop. So what you can see on this particular right-hand side slide is closing that loop. This is nothing new, nothing intelligent. I didn't come up with it. This is already being there, the theoretical part of it, now the application component of it. And beyond that, closing that loop of water, that is a peripheral thing. Earlier part, saya ada cerita pasal the peripheral part of it. Along this chain, this chain of water from source to the point is actually being treated and used and going out. There are uses of macam material, pipe materials, pumps, various kind of equipment, aerators, berbagai equipment digunakan. When talking about circular economic context, it's also essential that build in how these products are being produced. So how their waste are being managed. Are they designing for this thing to fail in 2 years' time so a new product is being purchased? Or are they designing in such a way that it lasts very long so there's no wastage? So that needs to change in business models. But a company cannot sell one pump, so pump to survive for 15 years and then they tak jual pump. Cannot. Right? So what kind of model can be created so that the pump producers also can survive? So like, for example, there was one of the models that suggested was for washing machine, which is probably can be applicable, where no one actually owns the washing machine. The ownership remains with the manufacturer. And the user is actually just leasing the washing machine. So when something goes wrong, so manufacturer have all the interest to make sure that machine lasts the longest, because the longer it lasts, the longer they're going to collect the lease. Right? So this is how models need to change. Kalau sekadar macam continuously saying that this is not right, this is not right, this is not, I don't think that will change. And constantly advocating, kita nak create awareness after awareness, it won't change. People faham. Malaysians, I don't know, Dr. You are in academician, I think in Malaysia ni, maybe 80-90% are all literates and graduates or whatever. Maybe my numbers are wrong, but I feel like most of them, everyone I know has gone to universities or whatever not. Jadi, pemahaman perkara ni secara umum, I think Malaysians ada. No Malaysians will say that, yes, we can dump something in the river, we can waste the resources. But right now, what are the environment that being provided for them to participate in the circular economic context? Yang tu yang tak ada. So this is To fasten this, I go to the next slide.
Okay, Madam Punita, there is under the question box here, ladies and gentlemen, you can ask questions. Yeah, there is a question box on your screen. This is not a question, but would rather a comment. It's talking about the eco design to final reuse. What do you think about this?
I'm sorry, eco design for the
Final reuse. The eco design would help, I think, in circular economy.
Actually, when it comes to I do not know specifically what does it mean by eco-design in this context, but one thing about circular economy concept is building every single process, product, and design are built in thinking on ecosystem. So if that's what they mean by eco-design, yes. Every single component. Dia sebenarnya a lot, like for example, a lot of time bila, I mean, I'm a water practitioner focusing on wastewater. So my mindset always has been tuned when I talk about sustainability. I only talk about when water is taken from the environment, how, and then goes to the wastewater. How do I make sure the water that coming out from wastewater goes back to the system, not back to the environment. So it's very, I myself had a tunnel vision. But when we talk about circular economy context, it goes beyond that. Kita jangan tengok air sebagai carrier only. We also look into the other component involved in making the water what it is along that chain. Even when it comes to construction, people who construct water treatment plant or water pipelines, distribution lines, or sewer lines, or sewage treatment plant, what do they do with the construction material that is wasted? Are they just going to dump in the landfill? So all these things are things yang easy to be built in. Dia bukan benda-benda yang some of the components quite easy, some of the components are going to be a bit more challenging, requires more discussions and conversations on it. Tapi benda-benda ni can be done. In the this particular slide that you're showing right now, for me, I feel like maybe some people think, are we ready? We are not there yet. Sebenarnya we have very low impression. Malaysians tend to have very low impression of ourselves. Actually, we have amazing agencies. We have very good institutional structure. Ini saya memang berani cakap. Siapa nak kata other thing is their wish. Saya berani cakap. In Malaysia, for water services, they spend. So that's the regulatory part of it. Very good laws. They have their experts. They have their mandate to do whatever they need to do. There are water operators. There are sewerage operators with many years of experience and knowledge and maturity in doing whatever they do. We have JPS, amazing set of data and tools they have in their hand to do their work. Similarly, just sama, mereka ada impressive knowledge bank, expertise and whatnot. Cuma, all these agencies right now, when they function based on the tunnel vision yang saya cakap tadi, right? So, which I will talk in challenges. So first, I want to talk about support system. Kita cakap yang baik, yang positif dulu. So the second part of it is expert capabilities. I mentioned that we have sector drivers, we have sector leaders who are I'm talking about from ministry perspective. Like contohnya Mewa, the KSU is actually a waterman. Fully involved in environment. So we have sector drivers and leaders. Kita ada NGOs macam Malaysian Water Association, kita ada Water Forum, kita ada, all these outfits yang kita ada scientists macam academic science, amazing documents and report and research tools they come up with, and industry practitioners. So itu tak kurang. Second thing is when it comes to regulatory framework, I say moderate. Bukan tak ada, moderate. Sebab bila regulatory tool was designed, it is based on current practice of linear model, right? So there can all these things being applied, yes. Tetapi to sort of like enforce it, maybe some amendment need to be done, so it need to be strengthened. And last but not least is we are so lucky because we are blessed with all this good infrastructure, people, institution, and the product, which is water. That means kita tak payah ambil shortcut. We have the time to rethink, redesign, and react. Now, Sebab bila kita nak jimat duit, kita kena jimat duit waktu kita ada duit. Bukan lepas kita tak ada duit. Tak ada duit, kita nak save macam mana? Right? So right now we have everything that I would say, like macam orang Indian will say, the planet aligns such a way, you should do it now. Not let it later or wait until the situation becomes desperate and safe. Because why? Circular economy is an opportunity to expand the resources as long as possible, so we do not get a shock into the economic system. What is shock in the economic system? Macam Sungai Kinkin, when everything need to shut down, sekolah shut down, how many hundreds of children got, right? Itu bila too late. Macam corona sekarang, too late. Tapi right now when come to air, kita ada masa, kita ada air, kita ada experts, kita ada infrastructure yang berkaitan. So we have to do it now. So what are the challenges? Ini very general, saya tak go specific, saya tak. Because when we want to go specific, we really have to engage with the agencies, yeah? So very general. We have policies, but the policy is disfranchised and incoherent. Kita ada a lot of policies around. Kita ada on national water resource policies, kita ada policies on recycling. I hope SPAN will come up with it soon on resource recovery for wastewater. Kita juga ada policy on green tech. Tapi bila kita, why I say use the word incoherent, maybe it's a very strong word, but why I use this word is, contohnya dalam all these policies, they talk about these are the things that must be done, right? Contohnya macam the practices need to change, the consumption need to change, 30% of the solids, biosolids, I mean the preservation of plant can recycle, or is it effluent? I can't remember the specific numbers. All these things must be done. Tetapi, what are the supporting, or like I put there, enabling environment that has been created to have that happen? So, the document remains as a document. Benda tu tidak boleh di-apply. So what does enabling environment mean? That means lepas all these policies being done, the agencies yang has that mandate need to be sort of like need to be imposed a KPI or impose a target that what they have to do in order to that happen. Bukan jangan cakap recycle mean who are the takers. Right? That's number one. Kalau biosolid, there is a nation standard yang cakap biosolid cannot be used as a fertilizer. Tapi kita ada policy kata kena recycle biosolid. So all those things. Sebab you know why? There's a lack of conversation between ministries and agencies. When we talk about circular economy, cross sector ya, kita tak cakap pasal agency. As an agency individu, saya dah kata kita boleh tadai hujan, boleh pakai individu, right? Organization themselves, how you arrange the lighting, your working hours, maybe the position of the office, whether you make people walk all over, wasting time, whatever it is, you can actually reduce that organization level. Kita cakap sectoral level because influence and impact multi-sectoral when it comes to IA, there is a lack of conversation in circular economic context. Jadi yang tu kena dibuat. And then there's no incentives. What are the incentives for people to participate? Kalau people nak spend money to participate, to design, to research, for the research institutions or even industry players, what are the things? True value of water tak pernah established. Currently, the value of water, the way it's being established is no cost from the environment bagi kita free, so my cost is what I rawat and I jual, finish. No. What you take from the environment, that means it's a loss to the environment. So what is that loss? Monetizing it. Jangan cakap cerita tarif. Our tariff is super low. That's another part of it. Tapi, tariff is one thing. Tariff is up to the government. Tapi, people kena tahu, bila saya bayar RM10 bil sebulan, tapi my actual value of the water I use bukan RM10. Saya bayar RM10. Tapi value mungkin RM150. So, that need to be established.
It's more, eh?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Cuma right now, the way kita interpret, human by nature very narcissistic creatures, I say. So we tend to think that I am using it and this is the cost for me. But what is the implication on the rest? What is the cost? Can we, if we can monetize it, again, I go back on that, if you can monetize that cost and that loss, then we can actually see a true value. True value maybe rather than going and telling, jangan bazir air itu anugerah Tuhan. You know, sometimes it become nagging. Really show value. Sebenarnya air yang dibayar RM10, nilai dia RM150. Contoh.
Yeah, so it may be. Maybe it can work, Madam Punita. We have questions, by the way, many questions. I just pick a few. The participant asked if we can address how we can establish the ecosystem to implement the eco-circulation system to meet the food bank need. I think you are going to cover in the next slide or so, but these are some of the questions from the participant.
Again, Dr. Ida, can you repeat what's the question?
It says something like, hope speakers can address how we can establish the ecosystem to implement the eco-circulation. So this is by Agustin, I guess. But maybe in your next slide, there is.
I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe I will cover and then see whether I answer that question. Okay. I think we can skip this slide. This slide actually I just want to share because I want to show our evaluation still in a very linear mode, and there's no strategic approach in action plan. Why I am showing this particular slide that you are currently sharing right now is sebenarnya a lot of initiative has been done on water efficient labeling product. That means mengurangkan consumption. This is one component of circular economy, using less, right? Using less, so water efficient labeling has been introduced. So want to encourage use of water efficient products. So one component of circular economy. Tapi kalau kita really tengok this particular item, you tengok number of people who are involved is about 80% are domestic customers, but they are only using about 60% of the water consumption. So the bigger portion is actually the small little group, which is 13% of them, non-domestic guys, who are taking up 40%. So what I'm saying is kadang-kadang kita kena rather than, I mean, this is a very good initiative. Yeah, the initiative is done, but the target, this particular target is for domestic people, or where the consumption is actually comparative kepada number of people involved is less. 90% of the people, 86% of the accounts are only using 60%. While kita tak target lagi on this group, 13% of this account, which is taking up 40%. So this is what I want to show on strategic. But Naman, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, in this particular slide, these are talking about what we can do. I think probably that's will answer. I think when people talking about eco-circulation, I'll take it as circular economy, unless there's a different context or meaning to it. So what we can see here is actually the approach. What is the approach that we can use? This is not my thought process or whatever not, but this is actually what I've taken up from published documents. Number one, there are many models available to build in this particular circular economy ecosystem into our sector. Banyak model. So this is a model of the yang saya tunjukkan, which is basing on certain principles. How to, what are the thought processes to put in, what are the innovation, taking leadership, collaboration, having conversation with the cross-sectoral issue, value optimization, every single part and processes, and having transparency in actual meaning of it. Sebab kalau tak, what will happen is kita takkan tahu whether it's really circular economy or not in its true form. So that's one part of it. Cuma, now this is the theory part of it, but application. There are many countries already applying a part of circular economy, not the full chain, a part of it. Jadi if you can see here, Singapore, Germany, Israel, USA, there are many places who are already practicing it. So that what easy way is no need to reinvent, learn from these case examples and adopt the best practices into our context. So we can have our own Malaysian version of it. So that's one key component yang kita boleh look at. Due to the time, I thought I can finish early, but unfortunately not. Dr. Ida, if we can move to the next slide. So kalau kita tengok next slide, this is very detailed CE framework untuk air. And I only took the part on human managed. So there are 4 portions of it. On the left, half butterfly wing, I think can be read. I will look. Let us look at the other one, multiple circles. Bila kita tengok air, kita kena tengok air sebagai in 4 parts of it. The original diagram catat 3, saya tambah yang keempat as a product. Okay, what is this? Number 1, water is as a service. Kalau as a service means water is taken up for users in our homes and businesses, ranging from daripada minum, personal hygiene, cooling of building, anything. So this is what as a service means. Jadi along this chain, water and everything that related to water yang an agency can actually influence, agency can influence to build in circular economy concept. Look into the component where the wastages are, or impose conditions of needing to reduce the carbon footprint or water footprint. Why benda ni essential is, there have been scenario where in one part it looks like circular economy, but the other part it's not. For example, e-scooter. E-scooter was seen as clean energy. Dia tak guna fossil fuel. Dia guna electricity kan, cleaner than fossil fuel. Tetapi the production of e-scooter created a lot of waste. And e-scooter itself was not a very long-lasting product because the design still ada some design flaw to it. So we have to look into the entire chain. Jangan kita create as a service, we put up a system or a service chain yang menyebabkan other components mula create more waste. I give you an example. Treatment process. As a carrier, air bersih, lepas digunakan, dia ada nutrients. Nutrients ni sebenarnya pencemaran. Sounds good in if you call it nutrient, but it's actually pollution loading kepada environment kan. So there's a treatment process put in place, but that treatment process is not designed thinking on full circle. Maksudnya kita end up creating other kind of waste. Sludge terlalu tinggi, energy consumption terlalu tinggi. So this is what the entire context that need to be looked at. Oh, kita ada 4 minutes saja ya, Dr. Ida.
Yeah. Okay. Shall I go to the next slide?
That is my thank you slide.
Oh, okay. So there is a question, actually a lot of questions, but I would like to pick up this question. It's from Mr. Loga. What's your opinion on the adaptation of circular economy in water services in Malaysia? What do you think, Madam Punita?
Right now there is no traction when it comes to my personal opinion. When it comes to sewerage operator in the water, there's a lot of interest and excitement in doing that. When it comes to water operators, not really. Sebab the evaluation is very linear. Comparison in, if I rawat air wastewater, air lagi mahal daripada saya ambil fresh water. Okay, that very linear way of comparison, not true value. Tapi when it comes to ministry, saya rasa with the current chief and all those things, probably there'll be traction. Tapi setakat ni it's very slow, not as how we anticipate. So I do hope this kind of conversation akan trigger mereka fikir in a more holistic concept.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Punita. We have come towards the end, and we have a very insightful presentation by Madam Punita on the adaptation of circular economy concepts in water industry. There are a lot of questions, and of course, we have 1 hour, and I just would like to remind ladies and gentlemen that we are going to have the next webinar session, the 4th webinar session, which is going to be organized on the 19th of May 2020 on Tuesday about 10 a.m. in the morning, about this time. And the title will be Embrace Circular Economy Back to Basic, a shift in mindset and action. Just now also Madam Punita talk about the mindset, the infrastructure that we have and so on. So don't worry, we have a lot more coming. And again, on behalf of Malaysia Productivity Corporation, specifically a sustainability unit, we would like to thank our speaker, Madam Punita Naidu, for the presentation today. And we hope that you are still with us in whatever form it is, whether sharing session or consultation, to help the Malaysians to achieve this goal. And last from me, I believe all of us have a role to play, regardless whether we are in the government, and if you are in the private sector, we own a company, we work in a company, and if you are as individual, we can always contribute in this fora, and also contribute to the society and circular economy, especially on water. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to fill in the questionnaire later when you leave the webinar session. With that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and Punita once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ida.